Welcome to Third Floor Views, a production of Chesapeake Family Life, where we talk about health, education, and living with kids. I'm your host, Donna Jefferson. Today, we're talking about the unique needs of women in leadership positions. Joining us are Judy Buddensick from Francis Marketing Group, LLC, and Michelle Lucente from Lady Boss Operations, and Donna Jefferson, founder and CEO of the Chesapeake Family Life Media Group. Thank you to all of you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Judy, Michelle, and Donna will all be speaking at the upcoming WeLead event. It is a virtual leadership event for women on May 7th. This event is for women who are leaders and are becoming leaders. It's an event to pick up tips and tricks for success, find inspiration, and connect with other female leaders in our community. There will be keynote speakers and 2 separate tracks, one tailored towards leadership within organizations and companies, and the other focused on entrepreneurs. Both tracks will learn, engage, take action, and deliver. It's not too late to register. To learn more and sign up, you can check out the link that we'll post in the comment section, and it will also be posted with this video on Chesapeake Family Life's website. So today we will learn more about women leaders in our community, and we'll get a sneak peek of what is to come at the WeLead event on May 7th. To our viewers, please feel free to submit any questions that you might have in the comment section, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. Let's get started. So first, if you could just tell me a little bit about sort of yourself, your current job, your journey getting there, and what it's like to be a female leader. Michelle, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I am Michelle Lucente. I am the owner and founder of Lady Boss Operations. I serve women-owned small businesses and help them get really clear about their vision and help them set their goals and create a strategic plan to help them reach those goals. So my journey with Lady Boss actually began a little more than, I would say, about 1.5 years ago. I just celebrated 1-year anniversary in January of Lady Boss. And it just was really a progression of life to get there. I was always, even from a young child, always the cruise director with friends and play dates, always the go-to person from organizing baby showers, bridal showers, student government in high school, go all the way through college. So I was kind of natural in that leadership role, but also in creating balance and organization among my peer groups and in my own life. So every job that I've had since, through that progression, all kind of led up to the creation of Lady Boss. I was the executive director for a nonprofit organization, and so a lot of leadership there. I always wanted to be the leader of my own life, be able to control my own schedule, and really serve women in the way that I saw that support was needed. So that's how Lady Boss Operations was born. So I'm able to go in, support women who want to stay in their zone of genius. They did not get into business to deal with the back end operations, the yucky stuff, which I actually thrive on and really enjoy. So that enables them to do the things that they love and why they got into business in the first place, and still have that support in management and that strategy portion.
That sounds like a really, really useful tool and team to rely on. Judy, could you actually, before I forget, Judy, if you could really briefly speak about the keynotes that are going to be at the event, because I'd love for our listeners to learn just a little bit more about that. And then I want to hear about your leadership journey.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled that we have Shanika Henson, who is an attorney in her own right. She was then on the city council in Annapolis. And then when we lost Mike Bush, Shanika was selected for that position. And she is brilliant. She is one of my favorite speakers. I've seen her appear or walk into a room and then is suddenly told she was expected to speak. And you will learn that she is the preacher's daughter, because she's just so dynamic. So I'm thrilled that we have, she has agreed to be part of the event. We also have AliceAnne Loftus, who owns several businesses, preschools, and she's a business coach. She's also an influencer, has a huge Facebook following, and she is just also so dynamic and can step outside of the role of business owner to be a coach, which is a very hard thing to do in that separation. So she is also, I'm very looking forward to her. She's a dear friend. So I have seen her and heard her before, and I've taken some of her courses. So I'm very excited there. And another amazing woman that it's an interesting time to make this shift, but the new incoming president, she actually hasn't even started the job yet. She'll start later this month, is Kristen Peronis, who is the new president of the, I'm going to get this one wrong because it's Annapolis and Anne Arundel County, or Visit Annapolis, but it's the Annapolis and Anne Arundel County Conference and Visitors. Donna, do I have that right?
I think it's the Visit Annapolis and Anne Arundel County.
Okay. It had a few name changes over the years, but she was most recently the vice president over at the Naval Academy Alumni Association.
Mm-hmm.
So she was there for 16 years and brings that background, which really a lot of the tourism that comes here is related to family and friends and just curiosity of the Academy. So that's going to be really, really interesting to watch, because there's so much change going on there as well. The Alumni Association is building that new center. So this is really the first time that there's a true partnership between the two, because she'll bring all of that. And really, she's only moving offices from King George Street down West Street. So it will be exciting, because she'll only be in the role a week or two. So we'll really get to understand her vision and where she's looking to take this. And then we can join her on that journey. And we do have someone else who we can't talk about right now, but very, very exciting. A woman who is the first female in that role, in a position that's been there for many, many years, and is in the position in the most challenging times of trying to deal with a pandemic and make sense of it all and keep people healthy. So that one I'm looking very much forward to. And I'm going to shut up because I can't say anything more. I might say her name.
Well, it sounds like there's a ton to look forward to, and it sounds like they're going to be just an incredible amount of resources and networking opportunities and ideas. So really, really worthwhile. Judy, can you tell us just a little bit about your experience? What has your leadership journey looked like?
It's interesting. I am originally from New York City. I know my accent comes out when I get excited. So, but I moved here 23 years ago to run WRNR, the radio station in town.
Yes.
I was the general manager there, and I loved running businesses for people. I love sales. It's fun. It's just so energizing to help other people's businesses grow. And I've always been in the marketing field, so that's what I was always working on. And I was very happy running businesses for other people. I never imagined in my life that I would own my own business or even want to. And that's really what happened. I went to learn digital marketing. When I came back and started the digital division for the radio station. And we were just having some contract questions, concerns about non-compete. And I was like, can't sign one, not going to work. The person in charge at the time said, if you don't sign it, you have to leave. I said, okay. Because if I do sign it, I'm in a lot of trouble if tomorrow you change your mind. So I respect it. You're running the business. I respect that. I'm going to go. And I walked out the door and knew I would never, ever go on an interview where somebody who was right out of college was going to ask me what I could bring to the table in a job. And I said, I can do this. So Frances was my mother. I suffer from chronic volunteerism, which I got from her. So it was, it seemed the appropriate thing to do to name the business after her. So she's always kind of watching over my shoulder. And we just celebrated 4 years in February, which is very exciting. Yay. That's certainly not anything again, that day in February, I was like, what the heck? Let's try it. And I love it. I still suffer from chronic volunteerism. I just picked up another one with the Travis Manion Foundation. It's all good. But I think that's also what helps me, because I know that I can do things on the side. When you're working for someone else, volunteerism is a hard thing to do, because they're going, wait, why don't you put those hours towards this? So between the Naval Academy Chaplains, the Downtown Annapolis Partnership, the Police Foundation. I'm with all these goodies. Annapolis Substance Abuse and Prevention. So I can give back to the community because that's important to me, and grow other people's businesses, which is just fun.
Yeah, it sounds like fun, and it's a great story. And I love that Frances is coming from your mother. That's great.
Oh yeah, so it's like, okay, I'm on it.
Donna, can you speak just a little bit about your leadership journey, and if there's anything else that you want to mention about the upcoming WeLead event?
Yeah, Judy only told you about a third of the speakers. So we have a lot more speakers. And as you said, we have a leadership track, which we've got some great speakers for that. Dr. B. Carson is going to join us, and she's going to talk about overcoming obstacles. She really founded a group that how people learn through action. So, and she's going to talk about overcoming obstacles. AliceAnne's going to talk about having difficult conversations, giving and receiving feedback, which is always very hard. And, you know, it can go really, really well, or it can go really, really bad. Just like for Judy, it worked out because her difficult conversation meant she started a business that's thriving, but some people are not so lucky. We're going to talk about high performance negotiation skills, which I think especially for women, sometimes they have a hard time negotiating. And then also networking for women, which women, yeah, they can network with the guys, but their networking needs can often be a little different. And I know I volunteered many years ago with the YWCA and was very, very fortunate to meet some women, and they kind of took me under their wing, and they were Becky Kirtle, who was at the time one of the executives at Constellation Energy, and Dolores Bale, and Becky Grigg, and they pretty much set me straight about a lot of things. And I am so grateful for their mentoring and glad that I had that network to fall back on. So we're going to talk about networking for women. And also under the entrepreneur track, Judy's going to talk about social media for marketing and branding. Michelle's going to talk about aligning your goals with your vision. I'm going to talk a little bit about not to be afraid of your bookkeeper and different metrics that you need to check so that you can see if your growth is on the right track, if you're headed where you want to head. And then Gayla McCrae from Two Arrows is going to talk about delegating for growth, which is another thing that is really, delegating is hard. So Chesapeake Family Life has been around, we're in our 31st year. It started, I used to be the assistant controller for the Capital newspaper, and I was the only woman in the administrative group. And they would be like, oh, Donna, she's the only one that looks at the coupons on Sunday. And I was like, I don't look at the coupons on Sunday. And finally, and I was actually looking for a preschool, and there at the time, there was no list of preschools. So you kind of had to just ask your friends, ask around, drive around, look for signs. And I said, I wish there was something here for families so that we knew where to find all this stuff. Like you couldn't, the only way to find a pediatrician was to, you know, ask your neighbor. And if you didn't like that pediatrician, then you were out of luck. So, you know, my husband said, well, why don't you start something? And I said, okay, I will. And, you know, my son was an infant and I put him in the swing. And while he was in his swing, I would go and work on this. And fortunately, I had a lot of support right at the very beginning from area advertisers, and I broke even the first month thanks to them. And it's just grown and morphed. And one of the things that I feel good about is that we have always sort of been at the forefront, sometimes too much so, of where technology is headed, and where where people, especially moms, are looking for information. So that it makes me excited that we are going to offer this program, this for women, WeLead, because there are some things that it's not like you can read it in a book anymore. Even to try to go through all this stuff online. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff, but you don't know what works and what doesn't. So to have a group of women who know what they're talking about, give this presentation to other women, I think is just incredible.
Yeah, it sounds like a really useful tool for no matter where you are in your career. So it sounds like an incredibly exciting event. While I'm so lucky to have all of you here today and with all of your experience combined, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your challenges and successes. Like, so thinking back on your career so far, what have been your biggest challenges, and what were the things that helped you overcome them? And then what are the things that you're most proud of, your biggest successes? Judy, let's start with you. I'd love to hear, and if you want to pass, I can have someone else go first if you need a minute to think about. But thinking about like what have been those stumbling blocks, and maybe particularly because you're a woman and you're trying to navigate this world that is not always as open to women in leadership as we would like it to be. So what have been some of those big challenges that you've faced, and how have you overcome them?
I think one of the biggest challenges was moving here. So go back 23 years. This is a transient area, but there are people that have been here for a really long time and have adopted it as their own. So when you come in new, it's not always the most welcoming place. And that is where a lot of the volunteerism helped me, because I was like, okay, well, you don't want to answer my call, or you don't want to talk to me when I walk through the door. So I would look for different events. I ended up overextending myself. And I said to someone, you look familiar. I know you. I just can't remember which group you're in. And he said, then you're in too many. Like, take a step back. But I didn't know how else to meet people. I'm single. So you can't just walk into a bar and be like, hey, I'm here. I want to do business.
Right.
So between the chambers of commerce and all these different networking groups, it was really baby steps, but a lot of the volunteerism helped me form relationships with people that have lasted. So when I wanted to meet the business owners downtown, at the time, WR&R was on Main Street, but I got involved with the Downtown Partnership. Back then it was the Annapolis Business Association, and I love Christmas. So I'm by myself here. It was really easy to say, okay, I'll take over Midnight Madness this year.
Oh my gosh.
Haven't given it up yet. We might have modified it this year, but there still was. Elfie couldn't go downtown because that would have probably been problematic. But she did a photo shoot instead. And even Elfie was born out of a need to, when you've got all these groups volunteering and doing things, it was if I'd say, look for me, people would be like, I've never met you. How can I find you? So one year I put on an elf costume and it stuck. So it was very easy for an entertainer who was lost or somebody that wanted something, go find the elf.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's such incredible advice, and something that women so often are volunteering, whether it be through their kids' school or organizations or in the greater community. That I think that's something that women typically are really good at. But the idea of like, how can we use that to then network and actually pivot and put it into use for our own personal gain as leaders? I think that's incredible advice, and something really, really useful.
And you really just have to identify the things that matter the most to you. I think we spoke a few months ago when I was on with my colleagues from the Police Foundation. There was a murder in the middle of the day in Annapolis about 5 years ago. That just blew my mind. A teenager.
Right.
And so I stepped up and said, well, I'm not going to just be angry about this. I joined Eastport Neighborhood Forum, Eastport Neighborhood Working Together. And we met, and that's how I ended up working with the police on so many different initiatives. But you have to, if you want to, especially for women, if you want to make a difference and find your own path and carve your business that way, sometimes the volunteerism helps you direct where you want to go.
Mhm.
And it also introduces you to more people in a setting where you're working together. So it's not that you're trying to walk around and be like, hi, I want to be my friend.
Right, definitely. Donna, how about you? What have been some of your bigger challenges, and how did you overcome them?
I think especially over the last 5 to 10 years, big challenges have been technology and just trying to stay abreast. We've redone our website, I think 3-4 times in over 10 years. And the time before last, it was horrible. I mean, it was awful. And
The website or the process?
The process, and the guy didn't do everything that he said he would do, and it's a long story, but
Should have hired a woman.
yeah. Well, the problem was we used Joomla, which is not very many people use anymore, and so there weren't very many people that were able to do it. We switched to WordPress, but we just in January realized that we have huge directory listings, and we realized that they weren't working the way they needed to. So we had to go find a new plugin and convince the developer that it had to be done, and you needed to do it fast because you already screwed it up the first time. So, but now they're great. But just today, so we're coming out with a field guide for the summer for families to use. We haven't had a platform that people could pay us directly, not an easy one. So my web person says, well, we need to put a new component on. And I'm just like, we already have this and this and this and this and this, and I have to go pull all these reports. So that has been a big challenge. And yeah, you can depend on developers to do this, but you have to be able to find really, really good ones and ones that will grow with you. And so that's why you need your woman network, so that you can find out who's a good one and who isn't and what's working for them. So that's been my challenge, and the solution is find other good women to talk to help you figure it out.
Yeah, as a challenge, the technology is constantly changing. So I see how that in itself is challenging, because you're constantly having to stay on top of it. And again, yes, networking is so powerful, and being able to rely on that network to help you solve those problems. Michelle, could you speak just a little bit about some of your bigger challenges and how you overcame them?
Absolutely. What I found is really my biggest challenge has actually led me to my biggest success. So I was a stay-at-home mom for quite some time. And as my kids got older, I was looking for some things to do. And like Judy, I found myself heavily into volunteerism, which was really great. That volunteerism led me back into the workforce. But my challenge was I found myself throwing myself so much into my work that I wasn't honoring my values. In fact, I had not even identified what my values were. And family is my most important value, but I wasn't honoring that, and I wasn't putting forth boundaries. So I was throwing myself into work and then just really becoming very overwhelmed and burnt out. And I quickly realized when I decided to pivot towards starting my own business, I knew that I couldn't go on that path. The reason I wanted to start my own business was to be able to have that family time and to respect those boundaries. So I really quickly realized, like, I need to know and identify what they are. I need to get really clear on what my vision is that I want for this business, and make sure I'm working towards that vision at all times. And I ended up getting certified as certified director of operations. And the process that I use in helping other women is really getting clear about those, their vision and those values, so that they're honoring them and being able to spend the time in the way that they need to. A big part of it, and to echo what Donna had said, community has been a huge part of that. Joining the Leading Lady community was life-changing for me. It was another group of like-minded women where we could come together talk about the problems and challenges that we were facing and support one another. It's been such a fantastic support system. So the last year, my business has been very successful, and I'm very proud of being able to help women overcome the same struggle and challenges I did with pouring themselves into work and tapping themselves out and not honoring their vision and boundaries, but knowing that I have this amazing community of women to support me, to go to when I need help. Technology help is always a great one. There's always someone in the group, the community, who can help. And it's just been absolutely fantastic. So, while I would never want to repeat those same challenges or mistakes I made before, I have really learned and grown from them. And I'm a big proponent of learning from your mistakes. And that has become, I feel like one of my greatest successes is being able to learn from that and take it and turn around and create a business from it.
Yeah, I think that is such good advice on learn from your mistakes, like use them to help you move forward, and think of them as positives almost instead of negatives.
Absolutely.
I have one last question while I have you here, and I'd really like to talk a little bit about women in leadership. Specifically, how can we as a community do a better job of helping women get into leadership positions, staying there and succeeding? And we've already talked a little bit about the power of our network, specifically a female network where we can really help each other. But I'm wondering if there are other things that you can think of that can help women get into those positions and stay there, and maybe even reflecting upon your own experiences of what helped you get into your position of leadership and be successful. Donna, let's start with you.
Well, the networking is great. I think as women, we need to be able to help other women succeed. And when we see an opportunity, say, oh, I know so-and-so, that might be good for them, or share it through any of your networks. Also, when people ask for help, be able to, if you can, to help them. We have to support each other. I mean, there's some things that, like just having affordable childcare would make a huge difference to some people. And that's not anything that we can debate here or that we can solve on our own. But again, as I think about those women who mentored me 30 years ago, they took the time to mentor me. And when I was wrong, they told me I was wrong. And when I needed to go do something, they told me to do it. And they pushed me to do things that I didn't necessarily want to do. So, and I think as a woman, sometimes you have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to, if somebody's doing some mansplaining, you need to go back and say, okay, well, wait a minute. This is the way I see it. But I think opportunity and education make a big difference and can help women substantially. I mean, it's on your shoulders too, to go out, learn what you need to learn, be in the groups that you need to be learn what you need, the professional groups, but also don't be pushed around. And when you see somebody that you would like to mentor, you ask them, can you mentor me?
How about you, Michelle? What do you think we can do as a community to better support women in positions of leadership?
I think just taking a stance that it should be community over competition. We find so much in, a world, and especially women in leadership, that, we oftentimes just view each other as competition, and that doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't help anybody to grow. There's so much opportunity to go around. And if we come together and form as a community and support one another, that's our best asset. That's the greatest thing that we can do to help and support one another. I think too, just like what Donna had just said, and just touching on helping to educate one another, we all have our strengths, but realizing when we don't have to do it all. There are other people that can help us, that we can outsource work to in our businesses to help our businesses thrive and grow. And that promotes learning from each other. So I may not necessarily have to something that is not my strength, I can certainly outsource that to somebody else who can either help teach me or just take that over so I can become stronger, and also supporting them in developing into a leadership role. I apologize for the interruption there
Oh, no worries.
on the phone. I don't know if it came across the screen. But just forming those communities where women are there to support each other. And, anytime someone reaches out for help, just to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And we often say we're so busy, we don't have time, but we should never say we don't have time to help and support somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, Michelle, that's fantastic advice in terms of outsourcing. I know that I have a couple friends right now who are in the beginning of sort of launching their organization, and sort of have been going on it in a couple of years, and they're being really successful, but they're also kind of going out of their minds. And so that concept, that like how to grow your organization and how to outsource, and then using your network of women to help support each other.
Yes.
And as you are growing, you can lift up another person in your network and help them as well. So it can be sort of mutually beneficial. Judy, what do you think? How can we support women in leadership?
I think that we've come a long way, but still our biggest obstacle can be ourselves. And you have to put the cattiness or the competition aside and reach out and help somebody. It's just as easy to help somebody up as it is to push them down. So why don't you help them up? Mm-hmm. And I think that I still see that happen where I cringe when you just see, it's like, but you could have just helped.
Right.
And so we need to work together to help each other, because that's the only way we're going to be able to. We can push each other up and lift each other up. And I think that's the biggest thing, to just reach out when someone's struggling. And even if they're not struggling, ask them, hey, you just started, or you're trying to start. Can I help you with something? You don't have to do it for them, but even just a short conversation that may say, hey, I got hit with that same obstacle. Why don't you try this? And just be there to show that support, because I think the support network feels so good when you just know that there's somebody behind you going, you can do it. You've got this. You're a rock star, as opposed to pushing you the other way. So I think we collectively, ladies, we need to all stick together.
Yeah. And I think that is such a great way to finish our conversation today and really promote the upcoming event, because it's such a way to bring people together. The WeLead event that's on May 7th, and to grow your network and learn from each other. So I just want to say thank you so much to Judy Buddensick from Francis Marketing Group, Michelle Lucente from Lady Boss Operations, and Donna Jefferson from Chesapeake Family Life Media Group. Thank you also to all of our viewers and listeners. Make sure that you do visit ChesapeakeFamily.com for up-to-date local information on home, health, and living for today's Maryland parent. And a reminder that there is still time to register for the WeLead event on May 7th. And you can find the link currently in the comments section of this video right now. And then it's also posted with this video on Chesapeake Family Life's website under podcast, and you can find it in other places as well. Donna, really quick, what is the fastest way to register? What's the link?
You can go to WeLead.live.
WeLead.live, as simple as that. So make sure that you do register and come to the event to learn from these fantastic women and more. It's a great opportunity to learn how to cultivate leadership skills and find success in your career. I'm Donna Jefferson with Chesapeake Family Life and Third Floor Views. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.